I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. Yes, indeed. What's up, world? Welcome to this very special edition of I Mix What I Like Live here on Black Power Media. Again, I'm Jared Ball, but of course, we are here with our special guest host for the April Silver Takeover. So good morning to you, April Silver. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And thank you for putting together what folks are soon to see is an amazing morning of programming. So welcome to you. Good morning. It's good to see you again. And what's going on? Welcome.
Good morning.
So I know that we want to let everybody know, of course, like the ear doctor says, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend that we are live, to tell them to jump on in. Greetings and grand rising to everybody. Let's get into what is going to be a really good morning. We have a lot of people coming through, and a big day, to get us started here on for your Boom Bat Breakfast, talking about Howard University protests. We've got student activists coming through. We've got faculty coming through. We've got a whole bunch of people coming through this morning to sort of situate and update and get all of that taken care of. We're also going to be joined by folks who have not only been involved with these protests anew, but historically, and who have also been involved with some of the early hip-hop conferencing work that we talked about last week. And joining us just now is Brother Carr as well. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. So there's just so much that we've got coming this morning, and I'm very excited about it. So definitely let folks know and jump on in, and also be sure to, let's just get this out of the way, click like, join, subscribe, hit the bell, all of that good stuff to support BPM, so we can continue to support all of you and all of us, and continue to provide an outlet and content that, like I used to say elsewhere, that organic media soul food for that organic soul food for your media diet. Your soul food, organic soul food for your media diet, and that important alternative. So, Brother Carr, how you doing this morning? How's everything?
I am well. How y'all doing? We got that Goody Mob style soul food. What y'all know about that? What you know about the dirty South?
That's it. Greetings, everybody out there. Definitely jump on in. We appreciate you all joining us. And I think we just got a little bit of a tech issue, but other than that, buenos dias también, iManifesto.
Buenos.
Yes, indeed.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Okay.
I think April is experiencing some feedback. I don't hear it, but I'm not sure actually what to say about that at the moment. If you could, April, just double check the cam and mic settings. But okay, sign out, jump back in. That's fine too. Brother Carr and I can hold it down at least for a few minutes. But just to let folks know a little bit more about what's coming up this morning, April, who is, of course, not only a Howard graduate and one of the founders, as we'll talk about later, of what I believe is the officially known as the first hip hop academic conference at Howard University. I can be checked on that. I'm happy to be checked on that. But she is also the founder of AKILA WorkSongs, and she's going to talk a little bit about that as well, and the public relations world and being an independent entrepreneur, so to speak, and business person. And then, of course, we're going to be joined in just a few minutes by Dr. Brenda Green, founder of the Center for Black Literature at Medgar Evers College. And we're, of course, a Howard graduate. We're also going to be joined later on by, let's see, Dr. Sion Quiet Smith. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Akonke, Washington. And then, of course, my man Timothy Jones is going to be here as well. We've got Arian Pope Punter coming through, Black Health and Wellness and Balance. We've got Doctors Greg Carr and Josh Myers coming through as well, and more. So, I mean, it's going to be a full morning. Yeah. And unfortunately for you and me, Brother Kaba, it's just all Howard all morning. You know what I mean? It's just, you know, for you, it's the other HU. For me, it's the big brother bully down the 95 block. You know what I mean? But, you know, we you know, the things we do for our people, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just yet another on the long list of contributions.
For solidarity's sake. The things you do.
But okay, April, I think is good now. So let's bring you back in.
I hope she didn't. I hope she didn't hear any of that.
I heard all of that.
That was Jared.
I heard all of that. I need you to know that I heard all of that. So this is how we're going to start the April Silver takeover.
It wasn't me.
I'm sorry I don't know what was going on. Just let me say good morning, first of all. And the feedback was so crazy. I discovered it was on my end, full disclosure, because I had this going and then I had the YouTube page going. So that was my fault. My apologies. I was like, what the hell?
We thought you had subcontracted Corvius or something. Do your sound.
Yeah, you got. Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, they're gonna get it too. But I'm excited to be here. I did hear you. I heard when you came on, Brother Kaba, and Jared. Thank you for the welcome. So we're good now. But let me just let you know, though, that HU is Howard University. Let's just for today, we're gonna have that be the guardrails. Especially when you think about what came first. You know what I mean? So just needed to say that so we could get the record straight. But I love you. I love all HBCUs.
All right. Well,
I'm
April,
gonna let that slide. I'm gonna be gracious.
We gotta let it all slide for the April Silver takeover.
For today, for 2 hours only, right?
Just for the day. Yeah.
Just for this morning. I do see the green room, so to speak, is filling up. But I know you also wanted to start by, I mentioned AKILA WorkSongs and gave a brief, insufficient overview, but I know you wanted to take a minute or two to at least let folks know what AKILA WorkSongs is and maybe a little bit more about the history and purpose, etc. Before we move on, and then when you're ready, let me know and we'll bring up our guests.
Cool. Yeah, I wanted to say thank you again for the opportunity. The last thing you want to tell a publicist is that they got 2 hours to talk about, their work and their clients. You know what I mean? Because we're going to be on it. But I'm really humbled to say that my communications agency, AKILA WorkSongs, is 28 years old. 28 years as an institution, and I've been self-employed for 25 of those 23 of those 28 years. So and it's been a wonderful journey to be in service. We specifically service the progressive community, the African-American community, the people of African ancestry community. Like, that's what we do. That's who we are. And you're a smart man. I didn't even think to, you found our website. our website. Thank you for putting that up there. But that's what we are: communications for the culture. And by communications, that's media relations, that's public relations, this digital marketing. And I'm so happy to say we now build websites. So that's an in-house operation now, like full websites, like five-figure websites, five-figure, dollar amount, and then one-pagers as well. So it's the full gamut. And as you can see, like it says there, we started in 1993, and we're evolving daily. We're looking to get better every day at what we do. We have an amazing roster. One of our oldest, one of the clients we've been working with the longest is Byron Hurt, the filmmaker, documentary filmmaker. I wanted him to be within this 2-hour block, but he's actually working on his other film. Like he's hazing. If you know Byron Hurt from Hip Hop Beyond Beats and Rhymes, that's his classic film from like 2005, 2006. We've been working with him that long, and then he did Soul Food Junkies. That was also on PBS, and his third film, Hazing, on the culture of hazing, the phenomena of hazing, that has been greenlit by PBS. That's coming out the top of 2022. But he couldn't be here today because he's working on his other film. I don't know if I'm at liberty to say what that is, but that's the only reason why he's not with us.
Do it.
Oh, wait. He actually did he announced it. So it's on Black genealogy and Black family reunions. That's coming on PBS as well. So we've been his.
I thought Henry Gates got that covered.
Well, until Byron's film comes out. Yeah. So he's a dear friend. The Center for Black Literature, Dr. Green, Dr. Brenda M. Green is a founder of the Center for Black Literature. We'll come to her in a second. Been working with them for 20 years. We're going to talk to her. So we work with individuals and institutions, not only Black institutions, but mostly. Not only media institutions or businesses, but mostly. And we run the full gamut, from the aspiring poet to the multi-billion-dollar philanthropic. We've had, let me do this real quick before I bring on our first project. A big project with the foundation was the Ford Foundation. So can y'all see my book? I don't know. Yeah, you can see that, right? Be a Father to Your Child. That came out in 2008. It's my first book, which is available on Amazon, by the way. Pulled together that project to talk about Black fatherhood.
Of a famous track.
No, I was going to say,
I'm a hip hop head, so that's where that came from.
The Bulldog.
NOG,
that's right. My
and
bad.
the Bulldogs.
I couldn't place it. I was like, be a father.
That was on purpose.
Yeah.
that was on purpose, and we say that in the book. You know what I mean? So it's an anthology of Black men talking about fatherhood from a positive perspective, and it's Black men from hip hop culture. So that's why the book is entitled that, given the positivity of that song. You know what I mean?
That book is made up. There are no Black fathers out here. There's no such thing as a Black father. We all watch TV and movies, so we know there's no Black fathers out here.
And that mindset that some people have is precisely why we were tapped to pull together those stories. You know what I mean? So it's available on Amazon.com. So like a variety of projects, like the 28 years of AKILA is a whole 2-hour segment unto itself, but I only wanted to say a couple of minutes, just so people can know who we are, what we do, and just know that, it's just all love. That's why we've been around, because the love is concretized in the work, So on that note, I can start my takeover now. Is it official?
Oh, it's begun. It's begun.
Okay.
We're here to that. Yeah.
There's been no rebuttal to there's been no rebuttal to the sacrilege that you've already laid down. So obviously it's your takeover.
So on that note, let's bring is Dr. Brenda Green in the space? Is she with us?
I believe so.
Oh, there she is. My face just lit up. This is Dr. Brenda Green. She is a client of AKILA WorkSongs, her organization, the Center for Black Literature. I invited her in this space because she is a phenomenal literary activist And I have the honor to say that she has become my friend and my mentor, not just a client. So again, you tell me I got time, then there's certain people I got to tap on the shoulder and be like, can you come rock with us for a little bit? So, Dr. Brenda Green, I welcome you. There we go. The Center for Black Literature at Medgar Evers College in Brooklyn, New York. Let me be very specific. The Center for Black Literature at Medgar Evers College. Dr. Green, welcome. And just so there's a connection that's even more beyond her being a literary activist, her son happens to be a little bit famous. She has two sons. She has two sons. They're both amazing, but the audience might know Talib. This audience would know Talib Kweli. She is the proud mother of Talib Kweli and Jamal
She looks like his
Green.
sister.
I would have to agree. So on that note, Dr. Green, welcome. Can you please do a better job than I am talking about the Center for Black Literature, the 20 years? We know the 20th anniversary is 2022. So can you just share with us, why did you find it important to start an institution such as the Center for Black Literature?
Well, thank you. First, I want to say greetings. Thank you so much, April, for inviting me to be part of this show. Brother Bull and Brother Kabab, it's really, really nice to meet you. I love the title. I mix what I like. It's indicative of your generation. You just do it, take over. But the Center for Black Literature is really an outgrowth of the need to institutionalize the National Black Writers Conference. That was the original intention. We do much more than the National Black Writers Conference, but our main purpose is to provide a forum for Black writers, established, emerging student writers, to have places and a community where their writing can be discussed, where literature can be discussed, where they can work on their craft through writers' workshops, where youth can become engaged. We were founded I founded it in 2002, and is the National Black Writers Conference, which is held every 2 years, and that's over 3 or 4 days, and then we do a symposium for 1 day. We also have a program called Re-envisioning Our Lives Through Literature, where we bring teaching artists into the schools and work with teachers and youth to get them to create their own writing, their own poems and stories. They put on a showcase, they publish their work in an anthology. We have a publication, the Killings Review of Arts and Letters, which is a publication for emerging and established writers to have their poetry, their stories, their art produced. It's also a tribute to John Oliver Killens, who had that vision to host the National Black Writers Conference every year. He actually hosted a number of conferences before he came to Medgar Evers College in 1986. So we are carrying forth that vision. We also do it through a reading series where we feature emerging and established writers reading their works. We're trying to create a space to bring together people from various areas to talk about text, to have intellectual discussions around text. We started last year a book club, which is another space where people can talk about the kinds of books that we're reading. Our artists, and all of you know, art for the culture. Our artists are our truth tellers. Our artists represent the conscience of our nation. Our artists really help us to understand what it means to be human, what it means to think deeply about issues, and how you can get people excited and engaged. And they do that through literature, through poetry, through performance. So that's what we're trying to do. We're very, very excited to be celebrating the 20th anniversary. We're planning to do that in 2022. Our immediate goals are to bring together some of the people we've honored all of the major writers: Ishmael Reed, Quincy Troop, the late Toni Morrison, Sonia Sanchez, Hakeem Mahabudi, Edwidge Dondercat, Walter Mosley. You soar our website. And I have to also give praises to April, who in her role as marketing and communications director said you have to update your website. And we are so proud of it. I mean, that is an example of the work that AKILA WorkSongs is doing. And I also want to give a shout out to April because she has underscored for me and for our team the importance of having that communications and social media element. You can't do anything without having that marketing strategy. It's like what we tell writers. If you write a book and you don't have a marketing and communications plan for selling it, then all you're doing is writing for yourself. So you have to have that. I also host a radio show where I have an opportunity to talk about writers, where they talk about their craft and their work. We also are looking to build up our scholarly research. We always, at our conferences, have scholars focus on the honorees, and they talk about the scholarship of their work. We've published some of the journals that reflect their work. That's something we want to do more. So we are really reaching a wide range of groups and audiences. It's intergenerational, from the youth up into our elders.
Dr. Green, that's pretty comprehensive. And what I love about the center so much is the full spectrum. Like there's the elementary school, there's junior high, the Re-envisioning Our Lives program that's in the high schools. There's an elders writing workshop that's been going on for a number of years. So from elementary school to high school, to the collegiate student, to the elders, the service for writers, whether you be an aspiring writer or a seasoned writer, has been phenomenal. I want to brag on your communications team, if I can, say so. Like, we've had hundreds of people show up to the workshops just this semester. Yes. Just alone, hundreds of people show up to the John Oliver Killings reading series because, to your credit, again, we can honor John Oliver Killings. And if you are a Black writer, you got to know who John Oliver Killings is. Please look him up, who also taught at Howard for a time before coming to Medgar Evers College in Brooklyn. But we can pay tribute to him and his new book, The Minister Primarily. So he's legendary and iconic. And then we have some of the newer artists, like the program coming up next Thursday is Uwem Akpan from Nigeria, the best-selling author. So I just applaud you. We could really spend forever talking about all of the great work. But before we shift, can you just maybe close out this segment and talk about, you as a founder, right? At 20 years, it has been great, and it's been some challenges. What would you say to someone who is an aspiring writer or a literary activist? What do you know now that you didn't know in 2002 when you started this work?
I would say that you have to really be committed and passionate and really intentional about what you want to do, because there are going to be many obstacles. But if you are intentional and purposeful, you can accomplish it. Writing is a very lonely act, and part of how you feed your spirit and sustain yourselves is to surround yourself with a community of writers and artists. Make sure that you are connected in some way with other writers and artists. Find yourself a writing group. And you have to actually go out and support other programs. We create win-win situations when we support other literary programs and arts programs. We have to build that. We can't do anything without each other. We live in a community, and we have to expand that community of artists. And you don't do it by sitting back and sitting in your room by yourself and only writing. You have to find a way to connect and to support and to think about, what are you doing in order to improve your craft also? how can you contribute to making this world, this society, a better place? How can you help to make people more conscious about what they're doing? And as I said, you're going to have obstacles, but do not let that deter you. I could not have done this without a committed group of people. So many people have volunteered and come together, and they do it because they are doing it for the cause. They're committed to the work we do, and I really celebrate that. I have to also say Medgar Evers College has been a place that has supported us with providing the space and some of the services to help get the word out. So being tied to an organization has really helped, being tied to an institution. And also really being intentional about recruiting writers from all parts of the African diaspora. Our writers who participate in our program come from the Caribbean, from Africa, from Europe, and from the United States. And we are deliberate about doing that, because one of the things we recognize, some people will say, well, why do you need a Center for Black Literature? I cannot underestimate the need to have a space where people can come together, and talk about the status of Black literature, and also come to other people who may not be Black, can come and hear what those issues are and what the themes are. It's evolving, it's changing. So you have to continue to have that space where those conversations can occur.
You've covered, and so precisely you've covered like the big chunks. So I want to close out on two things. And Dr. Green, one, whatever I owe you in terms of an email or whatever, it's late because of this show, so we'll blame it on Jared. No, no, just teasing. One, you got to tell us your favorite hip hop song, even if it's from your son. And then I want to say, we know that you graduated and got your Ph.D. You earned your Ph.D. from New York University, but you're still connected to Howard. Howard is everywhere because the current president of Medgar Evers College, she has been there less than 6 months, is a Howard grad. Yes. She's an HBCU grad. She did her master's at Howard, but she was at Norfolk State. She was somewhere else and such. So I just had to, show that. So the last note is on you, Dr. Green, your favorite hip hop song, at least one of them.
Okay, I have to say I try to live.
Yes.
I try. And also that, and I have to say The Beautiful Struggle, which is the theme of our upcoming 16th National Black Writers Conference, The Beautiful Struggle, Black writers lighting the way, because we have been involved with struggle, but we have done through our texts ways to light the way. So I want to say that. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on. And thank you for the work you do. This has been really exciting. I always say, I love this. Your generation, you're the leaders now. We are depending on you.
Yes, Gen X.
Yes, Gen X. It's up to you now.
It's wild to hear that. It's wild to hear that, because all I, as a teacher now, all I hear all day is how we old, and it's a wrap. And between my students and my children, Gen X is passe. We've already handed it over to the millennials or whoever.
You're OG.
Exactly.
So what does that make me, right?
Yeah. Right. We've even been called boomers by our own audience.
Boomers. Our own
children. We've been called boomers.
Oh,
we're no. And shout out to Dr. Green, the other Dr. Green, Dr. Perry Green. And shout out to the Nkiru family, where I was the interim executive director at the invitation of Dr. Green. That's the bookstore that Talib and Yassine Bey used to run in Brooklyn, the bookstore and the nonprofit. So just shout out to the Center for Black Literature. Everybody look them up, centerforblackLiterature.org. Right. The center is on Twitter as Center for, we'll put it in the chat. So Center for Black Literature, you'll find us. Dr. Green, we love you. We honor you. We thank you. And whatever I owe you in an email or whatever is coming. So
thank you. And shout out to our first female president.
Yes, Dr. Ramsey. I didn't say her name, right? Dr. Patricia
Uh-oh.
Ramsey.
First female president. We are so excited to have her on board.
Shout out to Dr. Ramsey. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Green.
You're welcome. Bye.
Thank you, Dr. Green.
Thank you. And shout out to Dr. Betty Shabazz, who taught there too.
Yes, you said it. You said the whole thing right there. You said the whole thing. Absolutely. So we I know we have the next segment. Like we're on time. Whoa, this is so
So
dope.
you run a tight ship on April Silver Takeover.
Yeah. Let's see how it goes. We got a whole nother 90 minutes. So the next segment is a smooth segue into hip hop education and the cultural initiative. And so the people who are coming in, you can let them in. If I hope everybody is here. I'm sure they are. Cherie Warren, Dr. Sayon Quiet Smith. There's my girl. Akanke Washington and Timothy Jones. And that's the whole family. Yo, I could do a cartwheel right now. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited. These are my
almost a Brady Bunch. Got to look down. Look over.
Almost Brady Bunch.
Yes. So I don't know. I'll just do quick intros. Y'all gotta, if we were sitting together, you would have to kick me under the table because I could just go on and on about each of you. So I'll try to keep it tight. This segment is about hip hop education and the cultural initiative, largely because all of the people you see on the screen are educators with different age groups. We are all graduates of Howard University, and we were all instrumental in the cultural initiative, which is the series of hip hop conferences that were founded at Howard University in 1991. And this year is the 30th anniversary of the founding of those conferences. And so, we were groundbreaking in that way. That's just facts, because that was the first time that a hip hop conference was presented, produced, organized, manifested on a college campus. It wasn't the first hip hop conference, but it was the first on a college or university campus, founded in 1991. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. And we will put into the chat, theculturalinitiative.com is a website where you can see where we've talked about that earlier this year. But right now, I really wanted to give a shout out to Akanke, one of my best friends. She is an educator. She has been working in education since she, started with her degree, seeking her degree at Howard in the School of Education, and has made that her professional path. So she works right now, having been in the classroom, she works right now educating and training teachers. We have Sayon. She's being humble right now. It's really Dr. Sayon Quiet Smith. She has been in education. Her Ph.D. is in mass communications. She's been working in the HBCU world for a minute. She's been at Florida Memorial, where she was vice president of communications and also a professor. She's been at Benedict College in South Carolina, where she was chief of staff and also a professor. And she is currently at Grambling State, where she's the dean of the Sayon, you'll correct me, mass communications department.
Yeah, chair of mass communications department. Yeah.
Yes, and a professor there as well. And she ran PR, public relations, for the conference, the hip hop conference that started at Howard. She's just public relations, communications person extraordinaire. And then my other best friend, Cherie Warren, has been a principal for about 17 years. She is a principal of an academy in the public school system in the Bronx, New York, where she was born. Political science major at Howard University, been involved in education way before she became a principal, obviously. And the story, we'll tell the story later about how she even got there. We started off as substitutes together in the Board of Ed. I was like, Cherie, we we got to figure out this money thing. We were fresh out of college, and we were like, let's go. We could go sub. And so I became a teacher, and Cherie stayed, became a teacher, and now a principal, and she'll be Dr. Warren in just a couple of months. And then we have Timothy Jones, another best friend, who is the chief visionary officer of Hip Hop Ed, that Twitter chat every Tuesday night for the past 11 years, Tim, or is it 10? 10, 11?
Tuesday, November 16th will be our 11th anniversary to the day. The first chat was November 16th, 2010.
That's a long time on Twitter every Tuesday at 9 o'clock, but it's Hip Hop Ed. So we'll talk about that too. But he works in youth development, mostly with high school students. And so these are all educators. And I wanted everybody to bring their perspective. We have elementary school, middle school, high school, collegiate. So that's why I wanted to bring these people together. So I'm going to kick off the first question. This is open to anyone because you all are hip hop heads and educators, and you were involved in those conferences I mentioned. So what are the positive ways in your experience has hip hop culture and just Black culture in general informed how you, or currently informs how you relate to your students and your students? Tim, I'll start with you, and then maybe we'll go to Cherie.
For me, honestly, hip hop has given me my platform by which I do everything. My business is literally built on hip hop. Similar to Akanke, I get to train and get paid to help teachers become better teachers through hip hop. So I work more with the adults who then, through the development of their hip hop sensibilities, have a better understanding of where their young people are coming from. So I get to live and take care of my family because of hip hop every day.
That's a word. Yes. Cherie, can we go to you and then we go to Akanke?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Tim said. I would just add that hip hop is a universal language. So at my school, I have children that hail from all over the world. We have many children who are West African, many children who are from Central and South America, and what happens is music is a universal language for them. So that, even if a child is new to the country and they might not speak any English at all, that hip hop binds us together. You can play music, and even though we might not be able to communicate as effectively as we would like to because of the language, the music brings us together. The other thing music does is it lets the children know that we are real. We listen to what they listen to. We understand the lingo. So it helps us to make those what people would call those real life connections, those text to world connections to kids with the children, because they understand that, this is what binds us all together. One of the things that binds us all together. And, in terms of just incorporating it in our school culture, you also can incorporate it into what the children are learning. So you want to teach children things like, when you're teaching figurative language, what better vehicle to use than hip hop, which is filled with it. And the last thing I would just want to say is that in terms of middle school, it's a time where adolescents are going through a lot of change. And one thing that hip hop actually does is it brings that swag, it brings that confidence and that self-esteem. And it helps children to understand, that they have value and they are worthy. And the other thing that I think it does is that, there are a lot of stories of perseverance in a lot of our hip hop. And the children connect to that for real, especially in the Bronx, where the struggle is real. You understand? I'm in the heart of the South Bronx. It does not get more real in terms of connecting with your people than where I work at and where I live. Well, where I used to live, but where I grew up. So I'm a child of this community where I work. So, the music also teaches those stories of resilience and perseverance that are so much needed for our young people.
Cherie, you know how hip hop is just embedded in you right now. Did you all notice her flow in the neck rolling as she was talking? Was I the only one that caught that? I mean, chime in, everybody.
I mean,
like,
that is
got
where hip hop
real
was born, right?
gangster. But it
Hip-hop
got
was
real
born in the
gangster when
Bronx,
she
right?
was claiming that, I'm a child of where I work. Then it was like, that ain't part of the dissertation right there. But we'll circle back to that. So,
yeah, that to read that. Yeah, you just brought it to life. You bring it to life organically. And shout out to the Howard sign that's on the back behind you. We see that. So yo, what do you expect when you have an April Silver takeover? You know, it's just dripping with Howard everywhere. So that's just, what do you expect? Like, people think we don't love the university because we've been protesting for 30 something years, but what we really do. So let's Akanke, yes, same question, please.
Okay, you know me. I gotta go way back, right? So when I teach, I bring my whole self into the classroom, and all of my experiences, I pull from the experiences of Black educators. So I rely heavily on our ancestors, my ancestors, Satima Clark, Bernice Robinson, and Esau Jenkins, who started citizenship schools. Those schools, we would call it critical pedagogy now, but they were based on the lives of the people that they were teaching. Their curriculum was based on the lives of the people that they were teaching. And so fast forward now, when I enter a classroom and I enter a space, or when I am training teachers, the curriculum that I imagine that I want to create that is the best is based on the lives of the people that I'm teaching. And for me, that's always Black and brown students. And when we talk about those lives, we have to talk about all of the expression of those lives, their cultural expressions, which of course would include hip hop and all music forms. You know, we do jazz. I just did a workshop with teachers. We use Neely Fuller's 9 areas of people population, or 9 areas of people organizing, and we take the top 5 Billboard hip hop songs, or we allow the students to choose their top 5, and we ask them to analyze the 9 areas of people development using those top 5 songs. What is hip hop teaching you in those 9 areas? Sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's not. And then we thug it out. We debate it, and hear what the students are getting from the music that they're engaging with every day.
Sorry
Like,
about that.
I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, am I?
Muted. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. I was saying the whole of who you are, Akanke, is the woman that would say we thug it out. You know what I mean? Like, as a way of saying, we debate.
Yes.
So yeah, no, that's the whole of who you are for sure. So thank you. Jared, are we going to be able to do Q&A at all or take questions from the audience? I just wanted to do that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
If folks want to put questions in the chat or put them in the chat, because usually April, and forgive me for not letting you know this if you weren't clear, I am generally banned from our own chat for having engaged too much in the past. So I just have to remind myself now it's okay to go check out the chat. Usually I stay out of it until after the show, so I don't get lost in the sauce, so to speak. But so folks, if you have questions or comments for our panelists and guests, please do put them in the chat. Brother Kaba and I will grab them, and if you've already asked them, please resend them, and we'll bring them to April and the crew.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Because I see off to the side, I see all of the scroll happening. It's a lot of comments, so hopefully we'll have
the chat is its own. It's its own, world.
Yeah.
It's its own separate entity, and sometimes it's dangerous to get in there. But
they thug it out. They thug it out in the chat too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna add that to the lexicon for sure. I gotta use that.
See, I rest my case. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see it's already started in the chat. So on that note, let's say you good with the question? Should I repeat it? Are you good?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
You know, it's sort of a combination of both Cherie and Akanke, and I bring our whole selves to it. You know, I always say when we're together that, and it's true. You know, I'm the Southern girl of the group. So we all met and bonded at some points in our freshman that first week of orientation, and I was a girl from New Orleans. So coming from where I've come from, you know, watching, you know, if people hear about Mardi Gras, mostly the commercial side of it, but the rhythm of our music, our art in terms of our Mardi Gras Indians and the things that we do, not just on that day, but every day that combines our music and our art, right? And that is, you know, from what our ancestors left us, our Native Americans and African enslaved Africans left us in that port city of New Orleans, more than just good food, but a rich combination of art and music. So it was very easy for me to just fall in love with hip hop, and I'm not going to act like I was I grew up with it, because I didn't, but it was easy for me to fall in love with the rhythms of it. When I met April and Tim that first week, and then Sue met Cherie and Akanke, and we worked on the conference. What I bring from what I've seen and what I've grown up with is a true passion for the ownership and claiming our voice in hip hop. So that's what I bring to students. That's what I bring really everywhere that I go. And we did that a lot. You know, that was my passion then 30 years ago at the conference, and it is now. That this is what we own. This is us organically. Cherie, you know, used the term swag, and yes, we have a lot of swag in it. And it is something that, to Tim's point, you can make a living off of. And there are so many life lessons, instructional elements in hip hop and hip hop struggle. I mean, 30 years ago, you know, the struggle of just getting hip hop recognized. It was a legitimate form of music, and not having the name changed to something that was more commercially pleasing. The struggles that artists had, you know, over the years, you know, just trying to get in the door, and actually still do have, but really had. So that struggle is very common with, I believe, our struggle as people. So I strive to instill in students, like I have a group of students coming today. Our campuses, they don't have classes today. We're done at 11, but they are students that are hungry to get in this business, and not just the music business in general, but they have a hunger for hip hop. And they hail from California, Chicago, New York, and Louisiana, and they want to know how. So Tim was a part of that conversation last week. April, you're going to get your invitation really soon. But they're going to sit down today and work with another person who worked with us from Howard during the hip hop conference, Kelly Green, who made her reputation in marketing and branding a lot of our hip hop artists, and work with, you know, some new artists, and really understand, you know, what the business of the music business is about, but what the business of hip hop is really about. And so it'll be someone that looks like them, teaching them and talking to them. I'll be a part of it. And, you know, this is, you know, there is no class today, but they're that hungry to know and to learn. We'll probably be here 2-3 hours today after everybody's gone, just working on how to expand their skill set so that they can really, really be a part of the business of hip hop, which is the passion that I bring to it.
Before, I'm muted. Am I unmuted now? Can you hear me?
Unmuted now. Mm-hmm.
Okay. We've talked about this before, because you are that Southern Belle. You're the one that wasn't from the East Coast,
Right.
and you were not, but you never had this, like, you want to be a New Yorker, right? You know, you've been true to who you are and your Southern roots, and you affirm that hip hop doesn't know geography. I mean, like it does because it has different expressions depending upon where you're from. But that essence in hip hop is in you, regardless of what your boundaries are. So I know we just have like 10 minutes left for this segment. So if I can segue that, and Tim, I want to go back to you.
And
Can
April, if
you
you don't
just,
mind, April, if you don't
yeah,
mind, I know you're going to Tim now. There are a couple questions. One of them is for
oh,
Tim, so maybe he can fold in his answer to this question as well as what you're going to ask. But
okay.
there's a request for Tim to talk about his new book, Where Are We Going?
Ha!
So if that can be brought into the whatever you're going to
Absolutely.
ask. Yeah.
Absolutely. If we could close, Tim, if you can make that the button to what I'm about to ask, you know what I mean? So I wanted to ask, um, can you just, in as you know, succinctly as possible, if it's such a thing, like what is the hip hop conference? What was it about? Why is it significant? Why do we have this website? Why are we reminiscing about something that happened 30 years ago? Talk about the significance, because you were the president for 3 years. I was founding president, and then you came. So you got a big point of view here.
I'm a shout out Lance Williams, because when we were talking about the significance of the conference, it was like, yo, this is history that happened pre-Google, so that you have generations that don't know that what they are doing in this hip hop education space actually predates the research that they would go to find to validate their scholarship. And also for us, we felt that it was important because it's our legacy, that when you see us, that is where we come from, and not just the conference in itself, but the entire ecosystem and environment that was Howard University. Even if you look at what's going on campus now, I ask myself, what is the soundtrack to this moment? For us, we came from the soundtrack that was Public Enemy, that was NWA, that was Ghetto Boys, that was Latifah, Salt Pepper, the list goes on. And they helped breathe a certain perspective that birthed the hip hop conference. So history is always a vital part. You think about it, we celebrate the outward bloom, but it's the roots that bloom stands on. And so I feel the cultural initiative represents a part of the roots. And then speaking of further roots, for me personally, I can't do the work that I do in hip hop without giving reverence to Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, because for me, that was the beginning, for my experience of music as social commentary, which then birthed hip hop. And my book, Where We Going, is actually an homage to the 50th anniversary of the What's Going On album. So there are extended poems written to every song on the What's Going On album, but then the title Where We Going is actually from a follow-up album that never got released called You're the Man. And there was a song on there called Where Are We Going, which I believe is a play off of Dr. King's book, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community? So the book is my hip hop way of paying homage to the 50th anniversary of Marvin Gaye, which then ties into the 30th anniversary of the hip hop conference. So I'll put a button on it there.
And Tim is let me know if you can hear me, but Tim is he's being humble because he did 2 books in 3 months. He self-published 2 books in 3 months, or 2 books in 2 months this year. So I just, and it's on Amazon. It's on Amazon.
I was getting my DMX on for a little bit. How he had 2 #1 albums in the same year.
In the same year, yeah.
I was getting a little flesh of my flesh on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I wanted to be succinct because of time.
Yeah. So Seyon, I want to ask you to share with the audience, as the person who was the public relations head of the conference, like what was the, pick a high profile moment, pick a celebrity, a high profile, be it Tupac or Snoop or Queen Latifah or Chuck D, any one of them who came to our conference, during, pick a moment and share a story, if you don't mind.
And if I could just interject very quickly to work in another question that
Oh, yes.
Sion, perhaps you could answer is part of your response as well. But one of the questions coming in is about how hip hop educators select material to use in their work, and is there any censorship involved of certain forms of hip hop or content or explicit lyrics when you perform the selection of the work you use for the education work that you do?
On the education side, I'll have to Tim and as well as probably Akanka and Sheree can step in on that. On the higher education side, we have more freedom, right? So, if I talk about books or show videos or, I don't have a censorship issue. There have been many of us, and I've written a couple of articles. Critical race theory is the big issue now. But some, how do I want to put this? The critics are always going to be there. In higher ed, I have more freedom. I've done, as I said, articles integrating hip hop and critical race theory because it's necessary, it's important, and they're definitely integrated. In my space, you select the journals, that you want the peer review journals to review your publications. I haven't had any problems yet. But I think probably Tim, Kanki, and Sheree might be able to speak to some obstacles a bit more than I can in that area. Do you want to just stay with that question?
Did it still tell us story?
Sorry, April.
Yeah. Stay with that question before I tell the other story, because that was a great question.
I'm good. Okay, you could go with the story.
Okay, Sheree, do you want to jump in on that question?
I can speak to the question because I work with 3rd through 12th grade, right? So for me, anything above 8th grade, I'm not censoring, right? You're listening to it anyway. And I always ask the students to bring me their top 5, what they love the best. And we interrogate it because I want them to start to think critically about the music that they're listening to and the messages that they're receiving. And I also play with them other artists that don't make it on the radio. And we look at the messages in those other artists, right? I introduce them to Dead Prez because they don't hear that on the radio. And we compare their top 5, the messages that they're getting in their top 5 to my top 5, or what would have been on the top 5 in 1986. And the messages from 1986, the messages from 1988. And we do all of those comparisons, but I don't censor them because my goal for my older students is to get them to think critically about the music they're listening to, the television shows they're watching, media, period.
I'll just say really quick, my focus and the best way to answer that question is doing the critical work with the adults. Oftentimes, the adults do not have the critical media literacy skills to dissect and decipher the messages that are coded within the music. So they will hear profanity and then shut down, as opposed to digging in deeper so that it's not just censoring because of language. I prefer the term thought-provoking, because you could have a song that doesn't have profanity and you think, oh, this is a great song, I'm going to use it. And it takes young people off on a different direction. So I try to focus on what makes this song thought-provoking and then do some of the same things that Akanke was saying by dealing with the content that the young people bring in. But I focus more on building up the adults' understanding, because oftentimes as the generations move, they try to be hip hop, but they don't really want to put in that work to understand what a Polo G and a Little Baby is saying. That is really a continuation of a Chuck D or a KRS or even a Sister Soldier, but that adult has to have that skill set to connect those dots.
So
wait, pause right there. Shout out to you, Tim, for shouting out Sister Soldier. I'm just saying. So
Yes. So to your first question, April, there are a lot of moments. Every person you named, I could name one. A special moment, I'll actually integrate two. One was we were Queen Latifah, who appeared at the conference many years. I remember one year in particular, she had an interview at BET, and then she had to get to the conference. And I just happened to be at BET at the time. And so she said, come on, just ride over with me. So we rode over to Howard. And I remember we took a small classroom. It was Lachelle Hatley, Dr. Lachelle Hatley, who found a classroom, a couple of other, volunteers, and she changed from her BET music video gear and, got her hair in a ponytail and her cap, and she got ready for the conference. She walked in and she moderated a panel and blew everybody away. And I use that as an example because the conference was such a comfortable, safe space, and everyone was very, very honest and authentic. And the artists gave it, the students and everyone who attended received it well. And another conference I will never forget, it was a panel about picking your own team and knowing how to pick your people. And Snoop Dogg was on that panel. And I remembered when he talked about how he didn't have a bank account and he'd never written a check. And he just continued to unpack that. And the entire room was silent, quiet. And he talked about the importance of knowing your business. Now we talk about your brand and, we talk about IP, and now we have our student athletes who are able to, make money off of their name, image, and likeness. And hip hop artists have always, again, to Cherie and Swag, we've created a culture, we've created a language around that individual artist that has sustained and that's continued to today, well over 30 years. And understanding that who you are and what you do is your business. You can put IP on it, you can put any other word on it, but hip hop artists understood that, I think, more than any other artist. And through the conference, we were able to communicate that in so many different ways that really touched everyone who attended, and just the artists that walked through and came through often, reinforce that message. So that's the two that I can remember.
that's awesome. That's awesome. It's a lot more that but everybody should go to the culturalinitiative.com, tell your story if you're from that era, and we'll be building that out. But let me have Cherie, my girl, have the last word. Can you just close us out this segment with what do you think people should really know when they think about the hip hop conference, the 30th anniversary? Just close us out with something strong in that way,
What I would, when I reflect on it, what I would like to kind of leave people with is that, 30 years ago, we had nothing. And we were able to, from not having a lot of resources, but having will and having drive and being able to commit to something, be able to generate something that was historic, something that was culturally relevant. These are things that folks are talking about now. But truth be told, we've been doing this, forever. And so, what I would like to leave people away with is that we still can continue to build and we still continue to create, and don't use the fact that we might not have, quote unquote, what are stereotypical resources to say we cannot do these things again in different and more creative ways, more updated ways, and take this energy that we have, take the commitment that we have, and let young people know that you can do these things, and to continue in that path, because we built on legacies that were left to us, and that they have those same legacies to build upon, and just come together as a collective and collaborate and get to work and get things done. And not to say that they aren't, But sometimes, you know, we think that we can't do things because we don't have money, or, you know, we don't have an office, or we don't have this. And if we constantly focus on what we don't have, we'll never produce. You know, we're always in a place where we don't have what other folks might have in society. But historically, that has not prevented us from growing and producing and creating.
Man, I love y'all so much. I'm just this has been great. I'm sorry we have to go, but guess who's next? Ariane is next. So it's a great segue. She's a psychotherapist, and she's going to talk about mental health. But Akanke, you know I love you. Seyon, you know I love you. Cherie, same. Tim. So just thank you, and you know we'll keep it moving. And we'll make sure that your information we'll put in the chat so people can, you know, to get in contact with you. So have a great end of the week, everybody. And we'll talk soon.
All right.
Take care,
Absolutely.
everybody.
Thank you all very much. Right
Bye-bye.
on, right
Thank
on.
you.
Awesome. So, yes.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. That was a fantastic discussion.
Yeah.
And very important and good to be reminded of some of the history of the work that has evolved into such a mass of hip hop education and resource. And anyway, it's great. Fantastic.
Yeah. So I was thinking that we go from the intellect to the mental, you know, to the other kind of self-care. We can, you know, we're in our head sometimes, but now Ariane is going to bring us into our feelings. You know, is she with us? Is she in backstage? Oh, there she is. Okay. So
Welcome,
again,
welcome.
can't have a April Silver takeover and then not just be, you know, dripping with bison all over the place. So Ariane, you're on mute, but I just want to do a quick intro.
I hate people do it like you said the other day. I just did it. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Because I'm gonna set you up first and then do the question. But let me just say this. Ariane and her father are the reason why we took over the catalyst for why we took over the administration building as 18, 19, 20-year-olds 32 years ago in 1989 at Howard University. Did I do this plug yet? Did y'all know about this book? Y'all know about this book. I know this audience knows about We Are Worth Fighting For, right? That's the history of the 1989 protest at Howard. It was Ariane's father who made it clear that Lee Atwater, the racist Republican, was appointed to the board of trustees at Howard University. And it was her father in a conversation where he was like, so what are y'all going to do about it? And then Ariane came to Black Nia Force, a radical student organization on Howard's campus at the time, co-founded by the now mayor of Newark, New Jersey, Ras Baraka, who you all know is the son of Amiri and Amina Baraka. And she brought it to that organization, and the rest is history. So Ariane has that distinction. And since then, she has evolved in the entertainment industry as an artist. She's always been our favorite, one of our favorite poets in Black Nia Force, and she's taken her artistry out in the world. And now she is not instead of, but also focused on mental health and wellness. Mm-hmm. She is a licensed psychotherapist. Am I saying that right, Ariane? Yes, psychotherapist. So I wanted you to talk about your work. I want to say welcome. I want to say I love you. Thank you for your passion that has never died. So can we start with the basics, Ariane? And just because mental health is so much, is growing into a comfortable thing to talk about a little bit compared to decades ago. Mm-hmm. So can you just break it down? Like, what is mental health and what is it not? Clear up some confusion that people, if anybody has any confusion.
Sure. So I certainly want to thank you for having me, and peace and blessings to the panel. And I will not start without giving honor to Dr. Kawanja Kunjufu and Dr. Frances Cress Westland, whose work I stand on around mental health in particular in our community. So what mental health is simply this. It is our psychological and emotional well-being. It encompasses our social well-being as well. And what it is not, I think, in order for me to answer that is just to simply say it's really not any one opinion, right? About who you are. All too often, and particularly in the Black community, we have suffered from intense and severe aggression. And all too often, we will become, through that aggression, paranoid, suffering from PTSD, undiagnosed mental health disorders that have otherwise gone unchecked, unnoticed, and set aside, right? So that's how I can answer that, what it is not. But in simple terms, it's really your emotional well-being. And that's how I can put that in a nutshell, and just in little time.
Yeah, no, that is basic, right? We just want to kind of,
Yeah.
we do definitions, right? We make things plain. So thank you for that. I want to bring to life, Ariane, a little bit of the conversation you and I had the other day, because you've been so deeply concerned, as so many other people have, about the students at Howard University who are protesting on approaching their fourth week. And we had a conversation about their mental health. They have been very clear and articulate about the trauma and the hurt that they are experiencing. And shout out to them for being very clear. So tell the audience about that article that you had already been like looking into. You remember that conversation? And it was about
I do. I'm always deeply concerned. I think I was always concerned, even when we were students. But I was a student and a kid, and not understanding even in that point how that impacted us. A lot of things we talked about impacted the generation before us, and how. So I guess that's how I got into this work. But I know, just because I was concerned that these kids have been there too long, right? We were there a week or so, but this is a long time. And so I went to do some research, and I found an article, and the audience, people that can chat, I'll send it to you, April, and maybe people should read it. But it's a systemic review around the mental health during and after protests, riots, and revolutions. And what it found is that there's some protective factors. We say in the mental health community, there are protective factors and risk factors to what we call collective action, what this is, right? And so just as my father and our parents at Howard, my father called me in Meridian Hill Hall and said, "What you going to do about it?" There are parents that are involved, alumni and faculty that are supporting the students. But there's an impact afterwards to those students that won't have the support. So there is a concern that in civil disorder and demonstration, there's an impact to their mental health, which could show up in various areas. It could show up in the fear. These students are afraid that they're going to be expelled. And that alone can cause them to have a reaction later on in life around paranoia and, being disobedient, or, staging a protest, or even disagreeing with people, right? And we decrease that anxiety by making sure that people are covered, that they know that we have protection, that they know that, we are with them. And I think this helps them. And Cherie said something earlier, and shout out to my classmates that were on here earlier, that the protection of the students is fundamental. And when people know that they have love, and then they have a place that they could go to talk to, that's very important. I actually called the School of Social Work and had a conversation with them. I'm not too sure. And here I am, I'm always a consummate HU student. I'm always a consummate Black Near Force. I challenged them and I asked them what they were doing about it. You're a School of Social Work, you are clinicians. And as clinicians, we have an obligation. We have a code of ethics. And beyond the institution of Howard, there's a code of ethics that mental health clinicians have. And that is to make sure that the well-being of those being harmed are taken care of. That's fundamental. The World Health Organization states that health is one of the fundamental rights of every human being without distinction, right? That's what Malcolm X said way before they said it. And so that's my concern, as a clinician. I'm not too sure what they're doing, but I would challenge the School of Social Work at Howard University to step beyond the talking points that they gave me about housing, about leadership, addressing leadership of the students, and really stay true to the fundamental rights of human beings. Howard stands on that mission. It is the very reason why it was founded, because Black folks we could not get into these institutions. So, I challenge from a mental health perspective to enhance the resilience of these young people, because we all have one aim, and that's to really get them back to a level of normalcy. I think that's what they want. And God bless them, they're fighting the good fight, and we're with them. I mean, I'm every time somebody takes over something, I'm like, yes, I already know what it is. I already know, I'm with it. I'm dismantling that, and they are dismantling it in a real interesting way. So I don't know if that really answers the questions. I know the time is of essence, but without getting into something comprehensive, because that could be a whole hour around systemic review around, protests and riots and revolutions. But it has always been my core concern, because we've all been affected by it. You have Cherie, Tim, Raz, everyone who was in that building were affected by that. We didn't have this conversation, but we certainly had Frances Cress Wessling, and we had Dr. Kawanja Kunjufu, who showed us I stand on around mental health and the liberation of our minds around these systems. So,
Aria, I'm so glad that mental health is more to the forefront. I'm glad that you're doing the work. And you're right. I know I'm personally affected by it. And we're going to talk about a little bit of the '89 protests a little bit later for those who might not be familiar with that occupation of the A building. But the most traumatizing thing is when we found out that the university sent the SWAT team in to kill us with the helicopters, and the SWAT teams coming out in full militia gear, and the helicopter landing on the roof of the administration building at Howard University. And the death threats, we don't talk a lot about that. I had to have Black Need for Security with me for about a year because these skinheads and the so-called white supremacists, I hate that term. So that's another story, because there's nothing supreme about being white. But we were getting threats, and they were finding our numbers, and I still have the audio tapes of people threatening my life. So security, was in full effect. So this trauma thing and what's real, I'm just applauding you for all of us for our care. And we're going to continue organizing around that for the current student protesters. So Ariane, we thank you. Jared, if there's a question, I'm willing to go over just a little bit. We're beyond. So Ari, if there's a question from the audience for Ariane, we can do that now.
I haven't seen any specifically, other than just some deep appreciations for the depth of the conversation, given the time constraints.
I have a question real quick.
Yeah, there you go.
Just to clarify real quick what you just said, April. Did I hear you say that neo-Nazis were were threatening you over y'all's protests at Howard? Is that what you were saying?
Yes. In 1989, the occupation, neo-Nazi skinheads, whiteheads, so-called white supremacists. I have audio of them calling my dorm room threatening.
But what is their connection though to that situation? I didn't.
Lee Atwater was the head of the Republican Party at that time, which is very steeped in racism and white supremacy.
And we kicked him off the board.
Yes.
Right, I got that. So they were protesting you for that, for knocking their guy off. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And somebody in the chat called him Robert E. Lee Atwater. I thought that was brilliant. So again,
That's right.
the chat thugging it out over there.
That's right.
Yes,
Well,
yes,
here's a
yes. So
question
let's
from brother
Tim.
Tim, fresh off the panel himself. How do you present mental health to communities that self-medicate without acknowledging their mental health? I don't know if
That's for Ariane. That's for the professional.
well, Tim, you do exactly what you've been doing. You meet people where they are, right? Before you peel back the onion, you just meet them right where they are, wherever they are. We talked about hip hop. You know what I mean? I mean, you meet people right where they are. You back into it with the music that they like, you know, with the people that they like. Your young people, which I loved the other day, if I may, the student leader had a young man on there who has like 37 followers on Twitter. That was her generation to come up to the campus and support the students, you know. And so it's really meeting people where they are, you know. And that's really how you back into someone and their mental, because people are not going to tell you what's wrong, because a lot of times people don't know what's wrong until you unpack it. And so you're already doing the work, Tim. You're already doing the work.
Wow.
Yes, that's simple.
Another one from one of your former compatriots. If the school did all that to y'all, how do y'all still have so much school spirit? I'm sure you had great experiences, but I feel like that's different than celebrating the school itself.
Ariane, can I take this one?
I was going. Go ahead, girl.
It's a complicated relationship, and I've been saying this for a number of years. There's a distinction between the love that we have for each other and the experiences and the bonds and the life or death situations that we've resolved, and how Howard brought that together, particularly for this Gen X group that was the 89 protests, and then we went into the HUSA administration, and then we went into the hip hop conference. That special bond that Howard facilitated, that's different from the abuse that we received from the administration. I always say, real talk, that some of our experiences with the administration were abusive. And if alumni are honest with themselves and can get rid of that shackle of don't talk about the dirty laundry, if we get past that and we tell the whole truth about Howard University, then we have to talk about the abuse that we have received from the administration, which is separate and apart from these lifelong relationships that have nurtured us. And like Cherie and Akanke, we love each other, and they check me and I can check them, and it's in love. We grow each other. You know, Tim is a dear friend as well. We grow each other, and we recognize that our experiences at Howard help to make that manifest, and we're able to make a distinction from the fact that some of the abuse that we received from the administration, and then we have our aunties at Howard that helped us get into class, that found money from us there. So it's like being an American, right? Like we have the essence of who we are as people of African ancestry, right? And but we're here in America, and for those who haven't left, it's a complicated relationship, right? So we stay here, but we have our Africanness, and we love that, but we stay as Americans because we haven't left. We're not expatriates, many of us, and we fight still. We don't fight to be oppressed. We fight for freedom, but it's all of those things wrapped up into one. I hope that makes sense. Ariane, I'll give you the last word if you want to kind of weigh in on that particular question.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, she's challenging the contradiction, which is good, because because all too often in families it's taboo to talk outside the family. And so when students resist, it is dismantling that taboo. And so in the tradition of our people, we've had communities, because we love each other so much, that we stay together. So you said it well. That's why we cheer on, because we're cheering on each other. It's the very reason why we go to HBCUs and these institutions, is because we want to go places that feel like home. So.
And I think in addition to that, if I could just add on real quick, there's a difference between the administration and the staff. And I think April, you just mentioned it with the aunties and uncles, and even the Dr. Balls who work at a HBCU, and he has as staff, but he has issues sometimes, I'm sure, with the administration. So I think there's a difference between that, and the students have that love that they have for the administration, the teachers, and so forth, and some of the people in the chow hall, and some of the ladies, the aunties there. So
and one slight clarification. They have often an issue with me, not I with them.
Anyway. Of course. Who would have issue with you, brother? I mean,
how could I? Anyway. So it's anyway. But thank you both very much for that conversation, and we really appreciate that and coming through. No, of course, anytime.
Thank you. Ariana, so we'll be in touch. We're going to get this part rolling out, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Oh man, this is pretty awesome. Thank you, Jared, again. So we got we got is Dr. Carr and Dr. Myers, are they backstage?
They are backstage, so to speak.
In my heart, I'm doing cartwheels.
Are you doing a grand intro? We just bringing them up. I don't know. Is there going to be a virtual curtain opening?
Bring them out.
There we go.
Yeah, with the scholars.
Yes.
Long intro, man. It's good to see y'all.
Good.
Welcome.
Yes, and I know y'all know Stranger here, of course. So before I even do, I start gushing over both of you. Have you all been listening so far? To some of the conversation?
Yes.
Right. So the vibe is all love. Well, it's going to be all love whether you had listened or not. Just thank you. I'm gonna start with you, Josh Myers.
Okay.
I don't know if this makes you smart or not so smart that you heeded our call when Akanke called you and said, okay, we have a problem. We've been trying to get this book written for 30 years. And we want you to write it. So I don't know if that makes you smart. You know that you had or just I don't know. But you put up with us.
A constant master at getting you to do things. That's what happened.
She's the boss of us. She's the boss of us. You're right. So that's how I first met you. No, it's not. It's not how I first met you and started working together. I think we had met before. Right. But the scholar that you are, the Howard alum that you are, and the current faculty, your love for Black people is manifested in how you show up, when you show up, the books, the scholarship, we could just go on and on. So we thank you for that focus and being fearless. And just being fearless and focused. So I want you to mention, we shouted out the book, We Are Worth Fighting For, but somewhere in this conversation, I would like you to talk about the current project that you have. And I think you have another one forthcoming. So we don't want you to leave this space. The publicists and me will not allow you to leave this space without talking about your current projects. Okay. And then Dr. Carr, y'all got to kick me under the table because I could go on. So your love and your scholarship and the precision and the rhythm, and the humor and the wit, like you be conjuring up so many people, including Amiri Baraka, because he cuts. When he speaks, he cuts, and when you speak, you cut. You know what I mean? But it's all with truth and love. So your work. At what did you say? 12 years? How long you been at Howard now? What did you tell me the other day?
Well, 21 calendar years, which as Jared knows is about 50 in yeah.
At least that.
At college, we know how it works. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So
anyway, 21 calendar years though.
Right.
21 Savage.
No question. Oh, bars.
Yes. We love you for your scholarship and your leadership and your ability to connect a million dots and make it plain, and all keep it in the context of love for African people.
Love is
We could go. Yes. So let's just jump right in, because we could just go on. I want to talk about. This is a good segue for the talk about the students at Howard currently. Your students, many of them, from the 2021 protests. There's leftover here an imprint from 2018. There's imprint from 1989. There's imprint from 1968. And in your book, Josh, you remind us that way before 68, there's a legacy of Black radical tradition, on campus with student protesting. So, but the key thing here is the current students who are in the Blackburn takeover. Since day one, they said that the restoration of the affiliate positions on the board of trustees, the return of those affiliate positions was one of their demands. The media talks about the mold and the rats and infestation, and they should, but you don't get enough, I believe, focus on their intellectual. The push for shared governance. So let's start with you, Josh. Why? What is the importance, from your view, that the students will push for student, faculty, and trustee positions to be returned to the board? Why is that important, from your view?
First of all, it's our book. You kind of minimize your role in helping that come into fruition. I also want to thank Jared and Brother Kaba for creating this space, and April for inviting us in. So the affiliate trustees are the only thing holding us back from the total corporatization of the university. I think unless we all believe that this is the route we should be going, and I don't think we do, then it's something to be opposed. Their elimination has to be opposed. And I'm not always sure if we should use language like interests and stakeholders and the like, because it's still the language of corporatization. I think we need to imagine the affiliate trustees fight as something that can't be beholden to that language and that view of what a university is. I think only then will it become something that leads us to reimagining these spaces. So along with the restoration of the positions, we need to actually think about reimagining what a university is, because that simply has to happen. The model that we have is not a model that Black people in particular should want. It's a colonial model. It's a neoliberal model. It's not the Black university that we imagined 50 years ago and beyond, and it's not even close. And so this is an opportunity, I think, to rethink the university. And that's really the only reason that we're all here, is to rethink this model, these people in this particular circle, to rethink that model. And so I think the affiliate trustees is an opening to that kind of conversation.
Wait, I want to say, you put into like 3 words what I felt about. I too don't like stakeholders, and you just articulated it very well. So I thank you for that. That was crystal clear. Dr. Carr, same question.
Well, we can start with a little bit of mention the technical dimension. The affiliate trustee positions that were eliminated by the board this summer were at Howard as recently as April still being contested. I'm the College of Arts and Sciences representative on the faculty senate, and I've been involved with or on faculty senate probably the last 10 or 15 years in one way or the other. And in the first week of April, the board suspended the student election and tried to suspend the faculty election of the regular faculty trustees. And the response to the faculty senate was, we're in the middle of COVID. In fact, the board trustees sent a letter to the faculty senate saying because of COVID, they were going to ask to suspend. And the faculty wrote back and said, yeah, because of COVID is why we need the whole thing. We need to be at our full strength. Now, little did we know, surprise, surprise, that a few months later, it will be sprung on us that while they were sending us the letter saying we want to suspend the elections, and mind you, a faculty trustee hadn't been seated for over a year before that because they didn't necessarily like our choices. The board trustees was meeting to eliminate the positions. And so the plot thickens. Fast forward to where we are right now. And I agree with Josh, of course. I would say one thing, COVID with all of its tragic consequences, and it is ongoing, of course, creates an opportunity for us to understand that the university never was the site of leadership production in any form, not the Western concept of university. I agree with Fred Moten and Jared and Kaba. I mean, I've enjoyed and listened to y'all's conversation with Dylan Rodriguez. And of course, I think that's part of what You're Not a Different World project is about, Dr. Ball. The university theft. I agree with Scott Galloway. The aspiration is to be like the Ivy Leagues. In other words, hedge funds with classes for the children of the investors and a few freakishly smart people and a couple of Negroes and blacks and browns and some people who can run fast to be the fig leaf to cover the fact that it's a hedge fund. And that is that neoliberal concept. And what COVID has done in some ways is jailbreak that. This is where the learning is going to take place. And again, the idea that we would draw into the ivy, we would draw into the tower to somehow generate leaders for the vast majority of humanity was always a joke. So those of us in this space, what the Black College does, and I'll end with this now, and we're going to keep talking about this. What the Black College represents is a fundamental contradiction. It is a university, which means it's part and parcel of that work. But it's a university where you got a critical mass of Black people, which means you're automatically going to have, in the words of Kwame Ture, everything in the African world and its opposite, including a bunch of oppressed people. And each generation, we see this student-led protest. We saw it in the 60s when the students, after the assassination of Martin Luther King, said, we want Morehouse and Spelman and Morris Brown and ITC and Clark to come together and become the Martin Luther King University. Yeah, okay. We saw it in 68 at Howard. They said, change the name to Sterling Brown University. We ain't going to do that. And then every generation, you get these unwashed Negroes, many of them first generation, like I was at Tennessee State when we protested, like my brother was when they took over buildings, that come forward. Finally, you have those who have been engaged in long-term struggle, like the former quarterback in North Carolina A&T, Jesse Lewis Jackson, who when I was 20 years old showed up at Tennessee State. He was running for president. It's 1984. I guess I was 19. And said, you know, I want to join this struggle, called a press conference. We were very happy. Here we are now in 2021. He comes to Howard's campus. And I asked him last night, Roland Martin had him on his digital show, and I was on Thursday. I'm usually on Thursday nights. And I said, Reverend Jackson, you know, explain to the people the difference between a mediator and a representative. You were mediating. I said, it's crazy that you got to go between an A building and a student center as if these are warring camps. But at the end of the day, you have to please explain that you're not representing the students, because those students have an agenda that they had when you came and are going to have after you leave. All of these tensions find their way at the Black College. And I think what we're at the moment now is that these young people are once again reminding us that because we have different interests as Black people than this system we're in. But we're going to talk some more about that. And I'm sorry I went on as long as I did.
No apologies. It's a good segue to the next question, but I want to share with the audience that Reverend Jesse Jackson was at the 1989 protest as well.
Yes.
And that was at the invitation of Sonia Sanchez. We can't leave out Sonia Sanchez. Sonia Sanchez is how we got to Donald Temple, who will be joining us shortly. So Donald Temple, a Howard grad, was our lawyer and negotiated and secured amnesty so that we wouldn't get expelled from 1989. Sonia Sanchez was the one who called Jesse Jackson, who facilitated Marion Barry didn't need Jesse Jackson to tell him to have the police to stand down, but Jesse Jackson was present and gave and helped to amplify our voices. So we're talking about a consistency here that is very significant that people know, and we can't not talk about Marion Barry, God bless his soul. He saved our lives, and Kathy Hughes, who ignited the community in Washington, D.C. So thank you for that. So your last statement, Dr. Carr, was about what the students are teaching us. Can you elaborate on that? Or what have you learned? What are some of the things that you see, some distinctions? What are the unique things? What are the students today teaching you? And then, Josh, I'd like you to weigh on that as well.
They're teaching me, I think, what we all learn from our students. They're teaching me from their experiences, what their experiences are and how those experiences shape protest in this moment. you know, it was Ella Baker, right, who said, you know, to me, young people come first. They have the courage where we fail. A lot of that courage is naivete. I saw Jesse Jackson, for example. He was at the University of Illinois, Chicago yesterday with the Black Law Students Association. They want to get this professor removed for various and sundry reasons. But I remember when I was in law school, we wanted a professor removed who we thought was a racist and basically held the entire faculty at Ohio State hostage until we didn't get our demand met. But what it did was galvanize a movement. A couple of years later, in the Rodney King Rebellion, we had something called Africans Committed to Improving Our Nation, where we held the president of the university and his entire cabinet hostage for about 4 hours one night in the Black Culture Center. That led to a number of improvements in the lives of Black students, faculty, and staff on that campus to this day. What these young people are teaching me, among other things, is how their generation continues that work. And a lot of it has to do with they're too young to have been absorbed into that process where they begin to calibrate protests based on the lives they have been sucked into. A lot of it has to do with capitalism. A lot of it has to do with the class structure that the university replicates. But they're too young now to kind of know what lies ahead in that regard. This isn't a question of intelligence, it's a question of experience. Finally, I think what I'm learning from them is that their form of being resolute, of having the will, is terribly effective in a moment when the literacies have shifted, when the technology has shifted. And unlike even in 2018, when you saw students occupy the Howard administration building, we are seeing a momentum now that means that every additional day they stay, everyone is exposed for the positions they take. And that these positions, like everything on the internet, will live forever. Regardless of what happens after this, everyone has been defined by what is happening right now. And they're teaching me that. And I'm just watching this and you know, supporting them. But I think those are the most salient immediate lessons that come to mind for me.
Yeah, certainly agree with that. I mean, people are really getting exposed, and it's like really sharpening, as some people like to say, the contradictions. April, I just want to add, you know, you met Sonia in a very different context, Mama Sanchez, and it was in her willingness to come and sit with y'all and read with y'all and read together with you that you all developed the relationship that was then necessary to save you all's lives much later. And so this evocation of study is something that's really important in terms of the germination of student activism. And so connected to that, I think, you know, these students are teaching me that, you know, solidarity and courage are principles that always are there, but they oftentimes we need to update our narrative about how it emerges and what those practices actually look like in real time and in real crisis. I think each age really does discover that. And through their discovery, they offer us reminders of these values. Them saying no to being violated should remind us that we can continue to say no to our various violation, that we've been saying no to violation. Many of the students are younger. The vocal and visible leaders involved are a little older, but many of the students themselves in the building are fresh out of high school. And I think they saw their dream school, and then they saw what it really was. And they decided that perhaps they can force it to become their dream. As former Howard student and Professor Ackland Lynch, whose own history of protest and activism is important, he often writes and says this. He says, you know, they are imagining and activating a dream sequence in the wake of what they're actually living, which is a nightmare. And so that's always an inspiration, and we can always learn from that.
I'm speechless. I'm actually getting emotional because what this whole takeover of this space, let's just be real, this space has been just illuminating and reminding and pulling forth what it means to be a human being committed to liberation. Like this is all about love. And I said this the other night. Love is important. But it's a feeling, right? So what I'm getting, what's resonating with me is the choices that we are making. You know, there's love and that's a feeling, but then there's choice. And then that choice propels you to sacrifice. And then that sacrifice evolves you. I think that's the crux of what we're talking about, what we are sustaining. Because as we always say, we got to be very clear with our language. And when we call on spirit and when we call on ancestors, I'm always like, which one? Like, which spirit are we appeasing? Which one are we talking about? Because we can't be so abstract, right? So we got to appease certain spirit and call on the ancestors, not the ones who have facilitated our oppression, but the ones who are of a certain lineage. And that's what this work is. Y'all stay right there, and Jared, let me know if Donald Temple is in the space, because he was supposed to join. He is.
Yep, he is, and
Okay.
he's sitting down and joining us right now. And welcome.
Yeah. So Josh and Greg, can y'all stay? Y'all can stay. Okay, good.
Cool.
Just thank you for your illumination on Dr. Carr and Dr. Myers. We're going to turn it over while y'all stay. We're going to turn it over to Donald Temple, who is an amazing human being. He is legal counsel for the current students, but amazing human being. He's a graduate of Howard University and an amazing human being, and I can't say it enough. So Donald, the reason I wanted you to come on board in this last 15 minutes is just to give the audience the latest of what's going on right now with the hashtag Blackburn Takeover, if you would.
Yes, thank you, April. And I listened attentively to your incredible speakers, and I got to tell you, it's so timely. And from where I sit, I graduated from Howard in 1975, and I've been close to the campus, to students, to the pulse of the university since then. And my heart is heavy. It's a lot of pain here. These kids, the situation is incomprehensible to me. The students asked me to represent them in a couple of weeks ago. And I sat down with them, April, for 3 hours. I said, we got to figure this out, okay? Because I saw them in pain. And I said, and I knew where it was going. And I told the administration as an alum, I said, I said this to the chairman of the board when this whole thing kicked off: let not your good be evil spoken of. I said, the disdain that I was seeing at that helicopter level for alumni and students and faculty was disturbing to me. But now it was manifesting, and the president of the university told them that they needed a lawyer. The president of the university is telling the students they needed a lawyer. Think about it. So to negotiate. And so when the students called me, we went in and we said, okay, let's get a plan. Let's just figure out how we can get the cup to the lip on this thing with their demands. The students didn't have a lot of demands. The demands were really not demanding it. So we developed a plan, and negotiations have given takes. We explained it. They understood it. And we then began a series of meetings. But what was, to this day, unfathomable to me was that when we met, the university told us and told the young people that we can't not only negotiate with you, we can't even listen to your concerns. I'm like, are you serious? The tone and tenor at which that discussion took place was so disturbing that the meeting was very brief, as you can imagine. And the university's position was that they would not, and what was that issue was amnesty. Students who put themselves on the front line wanted to be protected from retaliation. Retaliation is unfortunately part of the culture at Howard University. And I'm not stuttering. I mean, it's a sad day in that respect. So they didn't trust the administration for good cause. In 2018, when the students took over the school, I represented the students and we were able to negotiate. And it was 3,000 students in the administration building. And we were able to negotiate a written amnesty agreement. You gotta understand that. And that was important. Ink signed, president signed, amnesty, protection, system for ensuring protection. The first thing that the president put on the list here was he was not going to negotiate an amnesty agreement with the students until they left the building. But more important, what people said was that and I'm convinced that in his mind, he wanted to instill, hopefully not today, but he wanted to punish these students. And he was saying that you can't take over a building and think that there's no consequences. This is out of their mouths. So when we came back a second time for a meeting, and this is good faith, we want to meet and negotiate. That's what negotiation is. You talk, you give and take. Same position. And it was in the comments, and these guys don't realize they're talking to, with one exception, they're talking to young people, So this is a 20-year-old young lady and a 30-year-old young lady. And the other thing about that is that all the student leaders are sisters. They're young women. The student leaders, the universities have now become substantially dominated by sisters, and the numbers of brothers are decreasing. So these sisters are, they're strong, they're brave, they're courageous. So we're sitting in a meeting and they tell these guys, they say, look, we're not negotiating. We're not authorized to negotiate with you until you leave the building. Well, the only leverage that didn't have in terms of amnesty is to preserve the building, and they were willing to negotiate. More importantly, the deal was done. The students knew exactly what they wanted, and the demands were not difficult. All they wanted to do was have an audience with the president. Hey, talk to us, talk to students. Okay. And you don't want to talk to us because you have security concerns. Let's do it electronically. Not a problem. Let's make sure the housing conditions are safe. It's elementary, and we'll do amnesty. And there's an affiliate trustee issue and alumni involved. We'll figure that out. Look at this thing. But if you don't communicate with us, you don't communicate with us. If you don't talk to us to tell us you think it's 68 degrees outside and I think it's 52, then that's where it is. And so there was an impasse. And it became a little heated because, the students have been persistent. But then we reached out a number of times to try to resolve things. And then there started to be, quite frankly, personal attacks against me as counsel for the students because I represented them historically since 1989. Putting that aside, we've used outside influences. We've asked people to help. We've done everything possible to get the administration to the table. And as we speak today, this is Friday. We've reached out and asked them would they have mediation with the federal judge. And what they do is they just stop talking at certain points because there's a level of, and I'm sure you've talked about, there's a level of arrogance and elitism where people think that they're absolutely right and they don't really posit or think about the merits of what somebody's saying. I don't have any problem that the university disagrees with the students. I don't have any problem that the students disagree with the university. No, there's no absolutes here. What I do have a problem with is that we love Howard University. Howard University, not just because we love Howard University, but we love Howard University in the sacrosanctity of it in terms of its potential, its vision. Howard University comes to us after 246 years of just inexplicable, legally sanctioned subjugation of a people. 1867, can you imagine the condition of our community, of the nation at that time, and how it was intended to be as a promise and its development through the years, and what even in its imperfection it brings to the Black community. And it doesn't have to be a particular course. It's just that we have generate thinking, brilliant minds, people who care about the soul of our community. And that's what's at stake here, is because apparently at the leadership level, at least from what I can see on the ground as a lawyer who's represented the students for probably 3 decades, and as an alum who's actively involved, is that the soul of Howard University is at a crossroad. And we're walking on living pages of history with this discussion. And that this dispute is a Howard University problem, but it's also a problem for all of us, because Howard, not unlike FAMU or Spelman or North Carolina Central, all these schools are HBCU schools that represent literally a second tier of education. Why HBCUs? Because they're the only vehicle by which we could actually integrate our deserving students, aspirational students, into a system of economics, politics, and culture. These schools are invaluable to our cause. So today we're in an impasse as we speak. I am communicating with the students. They're extremely tired. They are extremely frustrated. You can't put a 19-year-old student, particularly these young women, in these plays for 23, 24 days, and there's no real protection or concern for them. Very, 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 very little empathy. It is beyond words. My hope is that there'll be some progress today. Maybe the president's going to give his remarks, and there's protest there. But the ball's got to move, and I always say this is going to end. I don't know that it's going to end in a good way. I don't know that, and I don't know if it's going to end in a bad way. But the students can't stay out there. There are people who come there. These are young women that are entrusted now with the responsibility for other people who come to that facility and the fate of the university. But one thing they always say, and they say that we're not just protesting for us. We're protesting for my little sister that wants to come to Howard, my daughter, my grandson, who wants to come to Howard because they love Howard, because they want Howard to be the best that it could be. And they just want somebody to know that there's not just the world that the Board of Trustees lives in, that I certainly often expressly disagree with, but it's a world where there's a synthesis, an opportunity for synthesis, because the university belongs to the students first and foremost. So that's pretty much it, April.
And there's so much more that we know that you can say. And we have 3 minutes left. So Donald, first, thank you. I know. Can I just say that we were on a call last night for God knows how many hours, and it's late at night, and Donald is giving us, and we're talking, we're strategizing, and then his family is in the background. Like I just have to say, like, the level of support that is seen and unseen, and the family. And you did with WPFW, you brought Channing Hill, and her father was on that interview. Like, I just wanted to highlight and shout out the faces that we don't see, the families, the fathers, the daughters, the nieces and nephews who are with the faces that you see. So I just needed to shout that out. But let me just real quick, Donald. Yes, because
I was just going to say, but we have to keep our faith. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears. We have to understand the resilience of our people and how miraculous we are. And so, as tough as this road is, we know that we've seen tougher roads, and the leadership in our community needs to step up to the plate at Howard and throughout the country, because this is a situation that we simply should not have.
Agreed. I want to tell people, if you're in the Washington, D.C. area and you can get to Howard University's campus, you got 2 hours to do so. There is a rally happening at Blackburn. You might have seen it already for a while now on social media, but from 12 to 1 at Blackburn Center, which is on the main campus, there is a support rally where we are coming out to support the faculty and the staff at Howard University. The alumni and students and just concerned people are welcome. That's today, Friday, November 5th at 12 noon. You got 2 hours to get there. So, Jared, I know we got 1 minute left. Anything that has been unanswered or unaddressed, AKILAWorksongs.com. We will create a resource page and connect you to Howard Alumni United, to the Capstone Group, to the work that Dr. Carr is doing, the work that Dr. Myers is doing. Dr. Myers, I said I wanted you to mention your book, so please do that real quick.
Cedric Robinson, The Time of the Black Radical Tradition.
Yes, so we're going to bundle all of this information, put it on AKILAWorksongs.com. This is how you spell it. And Jared, thank you, Brother Kaba. Thank you. So, of course, you got to have the last word, Jared. It's your show.
No, I don't. And in fact, we have flexibility. We don't have to be that rushed. So I mean, we do, unfortunately, I can't do this all day. We got to move on at some point, but we don't have to be that rushed. So if anybody here wants to take any, make any last, say anything that hasn't been said, or take a moment to come back to something without being so rushed, please do. But April, I just want to thank you very much for putting this show together. I want to thank all your guests. I want to thank all the people in the chat, the people who will see this later, and encourage people to come back to BPM, to this show, to this platform, and support. And this is what we're here to do. So I appreciate you. So, and thanks to everybody. So, but yeah, take a moment if you need, and wrap it up in a more unrushed style if you need to. It's all good. It's all good.
So let me do this. Can we do it this way? Josh, if you have any closing thoughts, and then we can go to Greg, and then we go to Donald. Is that cool? Can we do it in that order?
Sure. So
okay.
And Dr. Myers, if I could say real quick, you got to address that piano that you got there. We need to know what's going on with that too. As you wrap up.
Just trying to practice every day. That's all. one of my growing things that I'm doing. So not a big deal. So I think the faculty and staff rally that's coming up at 12, I really want to strongly and emphatically encourage people to participate in that, because the students, I think in this particular protest, have made it clear that they are very much connected to the staff and to the faculty, and those two entities are in many ways embroiled in their own engagement and negotiations and problems with the administration as well. And so I think there's an effect that the students have in terms of their experience that is actually connected to the ways in which the staff and the faculty are engaged with problems with the administration. So that has to be, I think, clarified. And I think this rally is a moment to show how those struggles are in fact inherently connected. So I just want to encourage people to make their way down to the rally university at 12 o'clock.
Thank you. Greg?
I'm just listening, taking it all in. I want to thank you, April, as well. Join everyone in thanking you and letting everybody know. Most people here already know, but for new viewers who'll be watching this later, the importance of Black Power Media and this whole suite of programming and the intellectual work that goes behind this work that translates into action. So thank you, Dr. Ball. Thank you, Brother Kaba, and everyone on this platform by extension. April, I'm thinking about something that our sister Brenda Green at the Black Writers Conference a few years ago, and so much work you've done with her around that. Sister Sonia, we were on a panel together. We were all sitting up there, and a young person asked, what can I do as a faculty member when I'm worried about tenure? I'm up for tenure. And she told the story of having counseled a young faculty member. It may have been at Temple, because Sonia lost her job a couple of times, starting with the students. And the young person said, well, I'm up for tenure, and I'm glad we're on a platform. And if you got somebody who's a minor, please put your hands over your ears. This is a trigger warning. Sonia responded that day at Mega Errors. We sitting there, and she said she told this young person, we all up for tenure, motherfucker. The point is this. When we think about the reason I said that is because we're all being tested all the time. And this is a question of character at this point. The idea, and Don, when you said that, brother, that hit me right in my soul. The idea that you would look at our children as your enemy or as your opponent, as somebody you have to negotiate with tells you everything you need to know. This is a question of character at this point. Now, will there be retaliation? Oh, they'll figure out a way. DT gonna make sure they get amnesty. Jackson is already, he said that yesterday. The president agreed to amnesty and didn't want to write anything down. President of the university is giving a State of the University address today. We'll all be listening. But that rally today at noon to 1, there are going to be a lot of faculty there, staff, alumni, people in support. And then they're going to be the vast majority who won't be there, but that doesn't mean they don't support it. These are moments when we find individuals who represent larger valences in our community. And nobody wants to be in a space. Sometimes you're pushed into it by events. And I saw maybe in the chat, somebody asked about these books. This is a brother who actually is a journalist in Angola. He's at University of Johannesburg, named Antonio Tomas. That's the brother. This is the brand new book on Amilcar Cabral, The Life of a Reluctant Nationalist. Never judge a book by its cover. The point is, do you think Amilcar Cabral would have been in the bush had he had a choice? Do you think these young people would have been in Blackburn if they had a choice? That was an act of desperation. And at this point, if we don't surround them as members of our extended family, we have declared ourselves in the thrall of other interests, because we got real enemies in this world. So I just want to say thank you. And we have to support these young people. I know they're tired. And Donald heard every word of that, brother. That what you said, that resonates deep in my heart. This, by the way, I should say one other thing from a man. I lived in Philly for 17 years. As the cats say in the street, the Temple name rings out. His mother was a teacher. I got a graduate student right now who was one of your mother's students when she was in elementary and middle school. This is generations in at this point. So don't take anything this brother says for granted. And thank you again, April. And thank you, Jared and Kaba and Black Power Media.
Right on. Oh,
Donald, you have the last word on this.
Muted. Yeah, go ahead.
I would just say is that we need to be heightening our vigilance, and our family and our community need to understand that the enemy would rather see this level of division. The enemy would rather see such an academic institution, not just Howard, but any that brings promise to our future. They'd rather see it go in another direction. They'd rather be able to inform its future with their finances, their relationships. No matter what that is, I think we have to just be steadfast. We need to make sure we have a blueprint, a framework for the development of our young people, the best possible development of their minds. If our students lose their hearts and their minds and their souls in the institutions where they're supposed to be fostered, we have a problem of unprecedented proportion. So thank you, April. I'm going to thank all of you, Dr. Carr, and everyone. I'm going to have to sign off, but thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming through.
Thank you, Bob.
Jared,
all right.
Thank you so much, Brother Kabah. The whole BPM, just thank you. No words.
No, anytime. This is what we look forward to being able to do. So we look forward to doing this much more. Thanks to you and all your guests. Thanks to Drs. Carr and Myers for bringing us home. Everybody in the chat, we'll catch you next time. A lot more coming up on the channel. Uncle Devin's morning show tomorrow morning, warrior class, whole bunch of stuff this weekend. Sundays with the ear doctor. But as Fred Hampton used to say to you, we say peace if you're willing to fight for it. So peace, everybody. Catch you next time right here on I Mix What I Like in Black Power Media. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. What I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.